Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Enlightenment Hour. Hugely looking forward to today's episode as we get ever closer to season 7 of Game of Thrones coming out in 3 weeks around now. I want to say it's far too much excitement here. But yes, today we are doing another top 5 lists. And this will be top 5 Game of Thrones characters. Now, this will be completely show-based. Sadly, even though I've literally just started reading the books as of the day of this recording, I'm about 80 pages in, and there's 5 huge things, or in this case, 7 weird things that are sat on my shelf right next to me. But after rambling for several minutes about nonsense, my guest is the wonderful Kimber Barrett of Odd Shape Panel, a big favourite of all things me and all podcasts I do. So yeah, hi Kimber, thanks for coming again.
Hey, of course. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. It's always nice to have an excuse to talk to you, buddy. But even better when it's about something that I'm so interested in and passionate about.
Exactly. I mean, I know you are the reason I started watching Game of Thrones, basically. Not to
I'm so
over
glad.
elaborate anything, to be perfectly blunt, you are the reason I started watching Game of Thrones, because everybody's been saying to me, oh, you need to watch it. And obviously I did and have. And, that was some months ago now. But you sort of gave me the last little push. And that was clearly what I needed to now be obsessed with the goddamn show and everything about it, which is wonderful. But yes, like I said, we are going to be doing a top 5 Game of Thrones characters list today, in the same vein of our previous top 5 lists, where we go guests top 5, guests 5, my 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, and 1, 1. So, without further ado, Kimber, your number 5 favorite Game of Thrones character.
For sure. He's the lowest on my list, but he's definitely in my heart. I love this character. I chose Davos Seaworth, the Onion Knight.
Yes, okay. Not on my list, so yeah. But yeah, really, good character. Sort of like quite an emotional character, to be honest. I always find
Yeah,
that he
he's
has.
great. He's one of the few characters who does things for the good, like the greater good, what he thinks is going to be best for the people around him. I think that he's a really good moral compass for somebody like Stannis Baratheon, who's like a serious man and a stern man and a little cold, and especially with somebody like Melisandre at his side, I think that Davos really becomes the voice of reason. And you see in the books, you do read Stannis's parts from Davos's point of view.
Right.
And yeah, and I just think he's really one of the like truly good characters. He's had some heart-wrenching scenes, particularly with that Melisandre scene,
Yeah.
with the confrontation.
Talk
That breaks my
spoilers.
heart.
Talk spoilers. We're going to get into spoilers, just if anybody wasn't hugely clear. Will involve spoilers, so don't feel like you can't talk spoilers. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when he confronts Melisandre about burning Shireen Baratheon as a tribute, basically, to her god, like, first of all, that's how I felt. What Davos was saying is how I felt, because
Yeah.
Shireen was such a sweet girl, and like they had this beautiful bond, and it's just heart wrenching. Like I truly believe him in that scene, and you see his heart break, and you just feel for him because again, like Davos is kind of like the voice of the audience in a way throughout that situation.
Absolutely. Like you said, he is really one of the very few characters that you look at and think he is a good man.
Yeah.
Here we have a pleasant human being. All in all, he doesn't do bad things. Like you said, he had that lovely relationship with Princess Shireen that we saw going seasons back.
Yeah.
And he was really the person that she could talk to about the grayscale and everything and how that was doing.
She taught him how to read.
Yes, she taught him how to read, that was nice. That was nice to see as well. He always, like, in a couple of scenes you get where Davos is sort of learning to read, he's just like following the book, and she's sort of correcting him every now and again. And it's just, okay.
Yeah.
It's like it's really nice. It's very pleasant. It's a good sort of contrast to the most of the rest of the show, really, when it's those two. But yeah, he's a very, very good character, a worthy entrance person on on this list. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also quite a good fan theory about Davos being Azor Ahai, the prince who's promised. So check that out sometime. It's really interesting. And I tend to hope that would be the case. It sounds cool to me. And one more thing about him is that he was like a really self-made man too. He was like a fisherman or something's son. And he basically got raised up into his position of being a knight because he saved everybody. There was like a siege or something, and they were trapped behind the walls, and he brought them. They were starving, like they couldn't come out to get supplies and stuff. And he brought he was a smuggler. He smuggled in some onions and some food, and he ended up saving the lives of Stannis and his men, and that's why he's known as the Onion Knight. So he never really sought out that position, but he earned his position just by being the type of man that he is.
Oh, absolutely. What do we think is going to come of Davos in the upcoming season?
It's really hard to say. I would love to see him live, but I am a firm believer of that most of these characters will die by the end of the show.
Yeah.
And he's in a dangerous spot once again, being next to another would-be king.
Yes. No, if not in season 7, certainly in that sort of shortened down final season 8 that we're gonna get, most of everyone will die.
Yeah.
Because it's as depressing a thought as that is, it's sort of the one that makes the most sense.
It's kind of a little refreshing too, honestly. Like, I don't always need a happy ending. It feels more realistic in Martin's vision for them to kill everybody off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As we all know, Georgie likes to kill his characters. So, yes. So, your number 5, Sir Davos Seaworth. My number 5 is a particular bearded wildling who I have been likened to from time to time, based on when my beard gets unruly and far too long. Tormund Giantsbane is a name I get called by those who either, those who I don't want to say those who love me, but those who like to pick on me as well. But we love them for that. No, number 5, Tormund, because he is, as a character, of course, he is only really built up in the last couple of seasons that we've seen. Before that, he either wasn't there at all, or he was just, he's a wildling, and they're all the same. But no, he's come into his sort of own as a leader of the wildlings. I like that. He's the reason that the first time the wildlings and the men of the Night's Watch have ever sort of quote unquote got along, you know, Tormund's big part of that, being the now, you know, leader of them. And progressive wildling behavior. Well done, Tormund. I like that. Also, I just like the fact that he's got a massive beard. I just really like that.
It's interesting that you talk about him being the leader, because he actually didn't start out as the leader. He kind of assumed that role after they lost Mance Rayder.
Yeah.
But if you remember his introduction, when Jon first saw him, he thought he was Mance Rayder.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that he ended up like assuming the similar position to Mance.
The guy looks like a leader, though. You see that man's face, his intense eyes, and you just go, this guy knows what he's doing.
Well, he's been through stuff. He had sex with a bear, so that's canon.
that's something right there. And of course,
he says he did. At least he says he did.
I wouldn't put it against him. I wouldn't put it beyond him. I you know, do what you do. Do you do you, Tormund. You do you. Also, I can't not bring up his infatuation with Brienne of Tarth. Yes. Which is just the most wonderfully one-sided relationship you've ever seen. Because he respects her so much as basically the female version of himself. And she's having absolutely none of it. But it's clear that he's not going to stop sort of... Well, you know, he's been the result of a few internet memes and things like that, where he's just looking at her with a massive smile on his face and just eyes that are just like, yeah. And it's...
Yeah, I think some of my friends don't care for that, particularly some of my lady friends. But to me, like, he's not creepy in any way. No. He's just adorable. Like, he's very respectful of her, like you said. Like, he would never try to like pull any shit with her. I'm sure he knows that she could probably break his jaw quite easily, and that's part of the reason he's attracted to her. Like, she's a warrior. He loves that. He respects it.
Absolutely. They're two warriors made for each other. It's perfect. Brienne just needs to see that. And
well, I don't think she's ever I don't know if she's ever been looked at that way. She might not just be used to that type of attention.
Yeah. She'll get
well.
No, that is one of my hopes for the coming season, is that we finally get some sort of togetherness between the two of them. Because
even if she just gives him a chance.
Yeah. Because I think he deserves it. Like you said, he does purely come off as just sort of adoring. You'd never think for a minute that he's, like you said, he's going to try anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I like him as well, because I can relate in that way, in the sense of one-sided relationships. Think into that as you will. Anyway, yes, I have said that is Tormund, Giant's Bane, wildling leader, wonderfully bearded human being. Kimber, you're number 4.
My number 4 is Olenna Tyrell, the Queen of Thorns.
Ah, okay. Again, not one that's on my list. I like it. I always like it when lists are different. And I do like Olenna Tyrell as well. She's quick-witted and she's snappy, and she'll just take someone down if they need to be brought down. That's great.
Oh, in a show full of sassy remarks and witty retorts, she is the queen for sure. She will smack down the best of them verbally, like Cersei, no problem. Like anyone, there's definitely Marjorie gets a lot from Olenna. The women are very capable in this family, and the dudes seem to be kind of bumbling buffoons for the most part. And I think she's super instrumental in like the deals and the wealth and stuff that her family has gained. If one Tyrell had to stay alive, I'm so glad that it's her, because she's wonderful. And I love the casting. If you've ever seen her young, which I'm sure you have, like Marjorie is a dead ringer for a familial link. They look perfect. And
young Diana Rigg.
Diana Rigg. She's spot on for the book. Like, these words are ripped right from the page for the most part with her. She is perfect with the book character.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, it's good to know that she's like good with the not good, sort of perfect with the book character as well. Because I know there's quite a few sort of changes there and characters that are a bit different, either go on and do different things and whatever. But I like it when, you know, it's a real, true, full adaptation that just works so well. And like you said, if there was one Tyrell that was going to survive the big boom at the end of season 6, I'm glad it was Olenna Tyrell as well, because Mace Tyrell was a fool. He didn't know what he was doing. I mean, Marjorie was wonderful, to be fair. I like Marjorie. Loras Tyrell, give or take, didn't really do a lot other than get put in prison and, you know, sleep with Renly. That's all he did for 3 seasons.
Yeah. So the show has surpassed where the books are, so we don't know. Like, Cersei doesn't even blow up the Sept of Baelor in the book. She blows up, I think, the Tower of the Hand. So it's a little bit different, obviously, when you're at that point. But so I don't know where they're going with this, but it's a little more complicated with the Tyrell family in the book, because like, Loras isn't even the oldest son. He also wasn't the one who they were trying to marry to Sansa. So it gets a little complicated with that stuff. And I'm even going to go as far to say as Loras is a little cooler in the books, because once Renly dies, he becomes like bloodlusted a little bit, and he wants revenge, and he wears Renly's armor in battles and stuff, and people think it's the ghost of Renly. So he's a little cooler, I think, in the books than he is on the show.
Yeah, that sounds cool. But not as cool as the Queen of Thorns herself. Obviously.
No one is.
Unless you have anything else to say about Mrs. Tyrell, Madame Tyrell.
Just that she's wonderful, and I love every bit of her, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do with her next season. I am very glad that she is going to be on Daenerys' side.
Yes. More backing for Dany's conquest. That's what we want. My number 4 is... see, I didn't know whether to put him on my list or not, because I tend to like characters that are more sort of... Well, that's wrong, because look who I've got at number 1. Right, forget that. I was going to say I tend to like characters that are sort of more good-natured in terms of what they're doing.
Do you?
See, this is because you know who my number 1 is, so this is unfair to everyone.
I can guess, yeah.
But no, my number 4 is Tywin Lannister. Who,
yeah, I thought you might.
The evilest human being, but is such a sort of commanding presence, and he's not evil for the, you know, pure sake of being evil like a Ramsay Bolton. He's evil because he just wants his own blind ambition just for power. And he's the puppet master for everything. He's behind absolutely everything. Even when you don't see him a lot, you know that he is the one sat there at Casterly Rock, or sat there as the Hand of the King, or wherever he might be, just pulling all the strings. Cersei, do this, you know, Jaime, you know, whatever. And Charles Dance is a fantastic actor, and he gives a fantastic performance. He gives a perfect performance for this sort of brooding, intimidating, big presence guy. The modern day Christopher Lee, I like to call him.
Yeah.
I think if Game of Thrones was a series back in the 70s, Christopher Lee would have been a perfect Tywin Lannister.
I'd watch that.
But
yeah, Tywin is the scariest guy on the show, in my opinion. Like, it's funny to see like people like Cersei and Jaime and Tyrion even, who are feared in the community, just kind of like go into child mode around their dad, who is so scary. Like, he's the ultimate scary dad character. Like, you don't want to disappoint him, you know?
You don't want to... I wouldn't even want to make Tywin Lannister happy, because then he might become comfortable with you and you'd have to spend more time with him. So
that's funny.
I just think, just like, don't even acknowledge he's there. If you're his child, just like, okay, I'm just gonna go somewhere else and not speak to you because you scare me when you're happy and you scare me when you're angry. So Tywin.
So the first time we see Tywin, he's actually like cleaning a deer, like skinning a deer and stuff. He actually did that, by the way. That's a real deer, and Charles Dance is actually doing that.
I love that. Yeah, because we first see him in season 1, where he's in the sort of camp, the Lannister army camp, and Tyrion and a bunch of like, is it a bunch of like
It's the clansmen from around the Vale, like the Stone Crows and the Burned Men and stuff are with him.
It's a weird sort of Stone Crows and weird tribes from the forests.
Like outside of the Vale.
And Tywin's looking like, why have you brought these people to me? And he's always, I don't know why, I like the fact that he's always disapproving of Tyrion. I don't know why I like that fact, because that's not nice, because Tyrion's wonderful. But I don't know. It's kind of... And then, of course, it all comes to a point when he gets killed on the toilet. Which is...
on Father's Day, they aired that episode, by the way. I was a big fan of that.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. I didn't realise it was on Father's Day. Bang, shoot, crossbow right in the chest on the toilet. Thanks. And yeah, but of course that was done because of Shay and all that business. Who Shay was one of those characters that you sort of like, oh God, you're doing this now.
Well, again, she's changed a bit from the book. In the book, they didn't have the type of relationship that they did on the show, him and Shay. But Tywin's just like, he's so interesting because he explains so much about his children's backstories when you see how Tywin is. And he actually does some things in the books that they like brush on the show, particularly with Tyrion and his backstory of when he was married and he found out the girl was a prostitute and stuff.
Yes.
In the book, you find out that the girl wasn't a prostitute and that Tywin kind of orchestrated this whole thing because he didn't like Tyrion getting married and stuff. So he's even like
further.
Yeah, he's even like a little worse.
Wow. Oh, he's horrible. A horrible, horrible person, but he's such a wonderfully horrible person that he had to be on my list, really. Yes.
Sure.
Tywin Lannister. Kimber, number 3.
My number 3 is Brienne of Tarth.
Okay, I have Brienne at number 2.
Nice.
But we'll talk about her now, because why not? She's wonderful.
Yeah, what's not great to say about Brienne? Like, she is such an interesting character. She is of high birth, but she chooses to basically live the night, a knight's life, you know? Yeah. That's all she ever wanted. She's massively tall and strong, stronger than most of the other men. On the show, she even beats the Hound in a fist fight. She fought a bear with a wooden sword. It's nice to see a woman who is just appreciated on a show for their power and not necessarily their beauty. Although Gwendolyn Christie is quite gorgeous in real life, they make her look a lot more plain when she's playing Brienne. And I just love her, man. Another good character who's just truly good. She named her sword Oathkeeper. She has a beautiful relationship with Jaime Lannister. Yeah. Of her chemistry with Podrick Payne. And it's kind of cool to see maybe what path Arya could have taken if her life didn't get derailed in the way that it did. I kind of see her as like an idealized version of like what Arya could have been.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I've never thought about that. Because she is essentially what Arya almost wanted to do before she got caught up in the whole face-swapping nonsense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, Brienne is an absolute badass. She would just beat anyone on the show. She could beat Jaime.
Yeah, especially now that he has one hand.
Well, yes, she could. She could have beaten two-handed Jaime. Season 1 Jaime. No. But yeah, I mean, her fight with the Hound is perhaps the best fight, certainly one-on-one, in the whole show, I think.
Oh, I was on my feet when that was happening. I was screaming and chanting. It was awesome to watch.
But yeah, like you said, she's just another one of these characters that is purely good, really.
Yeah.
And we talked about her before with Tormund. She's not used to sort of being overly sort of respected.
Yeah.
Which is strange, because I think the entire audience of the show, respects her.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
I think it's interesting. It's an interesting twist on her backstory too, because she was very much like on the other side of that with her unrequited love for Renly Baratheon.
Yes, true. Of course, Renly didn't particularly care for women.
No.
But so that's a shame for Brienne.
But he was, and she knew that, but he was kind to her in a moment that she really needed somebody to be kind to her, and it made a huge impression, and she would have given her life to protect him, Yeah. And sadly, he was struck down right in front of her.
Yeah, and for a while, if I'm remembering this right, which I should be, wasn't she blamed?
Yeah, they thought it was her.
So that's not, she's going to take a while to get over being blamed for someone she, admired so much. He's there.
I'm sure killing Stannis helped.
Yes, true. That was a wonderful moment as well. Because nobody likes Stannis. I don't care what some particular people might say. Horrible
He's
person.
Going to be in the comments. We love you, Eric Monroe. He doesn't mean it.
We do love you, Eric, but why you love that child murdering, daughter murdering maniac? Stannis. No. But yes, Brienne, like you said, just an impossibly cool character who, is my number 2 as well, for a reason. You're number 3, my number 2. Because whenever she's on screen, I just go, oh, yes, it's a Brienne scene.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. Like, I'm so interested finding out about her, what she's like, and where she's going to go. Like I said, I hope her and Tormund have some sort of relationship, because whether it's mild or otherwise, because they are two warriors that just are right for each other, or so I think, at least. Yeah, full blown warrior woman. That's great to see.
Yep, and she's full of heart, and she fights for whoever she thinks is right at that moment. She's been on several teams, basically.
Yeah.
She's fought alongside Jamie. She's fought alongside Catelyn, Renly, Sansa now. She's great, man. Like, when she pledged herself to Sansa, I was in tears. It was beautiful, and I love her. That's who I would want protecting me.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody had come anywhere near you. If you saw, well, she's up in the north as well now, and we all know the north is where it's at.
Yeah. And I loved when Olenna saw her. Sorry to interrupt. I just get so excited. When Olenna saw her, she marveled at her beauty, like, and how wonderful. Like, oh my gosh, you're like even better than I heard, and I loved that.
Yeah, she deserves all the praise she gets. Does Brienne, the character, and Gwendolyn Christie, because she's wonderful as well.
Yes, she's a goddess.
But yeah, yes, my number 3 is the sneaky, bald eunuch that we love called Varys, who is
the spider.
The spider, the master of whisperers, whatever other title he might hold. He is, I mean, you said it before, in a show with so many sassy comebacks and quick-wittedness, Varys is up there with all that. Obviously Game of Thrones isn't trying to be funny all the time, but he's hilarious to me because he just comes people just with put-downs, or like, why are you mocking me for being a eunuch? I have more of this than you will ever. And it's just, he's always one step ahead of everybody, or he's always like 3 steps ahead of everybody, I should say. He's now, of course, on Daenerys's conquest team.
Yeah.
He is pretty much the one friend Tyrion has.
Yeah, that's true as well.
And Tyrion's the fan favorite character of everything, so there's another reason to love Varys. I just love the fact that he has people absolutely everywhere that just report everything back to him. Maybe this is my sort of weird journalism style head coming on right now, but I like the idea of having a load of people just reporting random news to me from everywhere. And that is what Harris just does. And he sits there on the small council, and he is sort of looked down upon for being a eunuch. For like they like to look down upon people in Westeros, and it's often the people they look down upon that are either, well, not necessarily the best people, but the people that know what's going on, as opposed to the other ones. Varys certainly knows what's going on. I don't think he'll be one to die, because I just think he'll be too, he'll know where to go if something bad's going to happen.
Yeah,
he'll know to
he's
get out of there.
Such a rough life, He basically was mutilated and then lived on the streets, and kind of in a situation like his little birds do. I think that's why he does know the strength of his birds. No one notices these children, these dirty children in the streets. They just kind of walk by them, and that's how they hear their information.
Yeah.
So I think he is a survivor, truly. So I could see why you could see him surviving towards the end.
Absolutely. No, I really think you do that. And Conleth Hill as well, who plays him, I think he's just great. I mean, if you look at him in real life, he looks actually nothing like Varys.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. Like, he obviously shaves his head, but I don't know what they do to him to make him look more like Varys. But he gives a great performance as well. I mean, there's not
that good.
There are very, very few bad to iffy performances in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Varys is certainly not one of them. Yeah, I love him as a character because I love the fact that he's got people everywhere.
Yeah,
He's
you were
3
talking
steps
about
ahead.
like puppet masters and everything. Like him and Littlefinger are on a whole different level.
Yeah,
Than everyone else. Like he's really pulling strings. But I think that Varys, unlike Littlefinger, does things for the good of the realm. Honestly, I
yeah,
think he makes a lot of his choices for what he thinks is best for the realm.
yeah. I think he does. I mean, I think there's a quote in season 1. I think it's Ned Stark who like asks him, or Varys asks Ned, like, who do you serve? And then he's like, I serve the king. This is when Ned's hand or whatever. And then Ned's asking him, who do you serve, Lord Varys? I serve the realm.
Yeah.
And, he will just, like that. I think I'm like 95% sure that is a direct quote. And, Varys is always just doing what's good for the land, not necessarily himself. And it's clear now that, well, if he believes that, he clearly believes that a Targaryen return is good for the realm. So yeah, obviously I can't wait to see how that turns out.
For
But
sure.
yeah.
He's one of my favorites too. Although he didn't make my list, it was very close. I love Varys.
Yeah, so that is my number 3. Now my number 2 was Brienne, which we already talked about. So your number 2 is
The Imp, Tyrion Lannister.
Tyrion Lannister. Again, not on my list, but not because I don't love the guy as a character. He's a wonderful, wonderful character. Why do you love Tyrion so much?
How could anyone not love Tyrion? He is so full of charm and charisma and perfect comedic timing and beautifully played by Peter Dinklage, who is so wonderful. Like, I'm glad he's gotten so many awards and stuff for his performance as Tyrion, because I don't think anyone else could have played Tyrion. He's perfection. And I mean, I just love everything about this guy. He can basically fit into any group because he is so intelligent and clever and charming that he's an asset to anybody's team. And he has been parts of a lot of people's different plans and in different roles. He was the hand of the king briefly. Obviously, now he's the hand of the queen, so he's gone for full circle. Crafty, he can get himself out of situations. I love his team up with Braun, who is also such a great character. I love every second Tyrion is on screen, and I'm always curious to see what he's gonna do. And I loved his stuff with the dragons. It was really emotional. It moved me to see his speech that he gave when he went into the dragon cage about how he's always wanted one, and he asked for one, and he cried when he found out they were all gone. It was really beautiful. Like, Tyrion's such an interesting character with so much depth, and there's so much that's really honest about him. He reminds me of some people I've known, like the better parts of them. He's perfectly imperfect, and I adore him.
I mean, you think of another powerful Tyrion speech, you think of the one during his big trial.
Absolutely.
In the throne room. And I mean, there's a reason Dinklage wins all the awards every year. He is a powerhouse of a performer on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And if the show had a main character, it'd probably be Tyrion. I think he has the most sort of effect to most. In fact, I think there was some sort of algorithm created. I don't know if algorithm's the right word, but I think there was something somewhere created that was like, if Game of Thrones had a main character, who would the main character be? And they sort of tested, which one particular character had the most effect on everybody else's goings on. And I think Tyrion was sort of that guy. But yeah, just like you said, a wonderfully charming character. And I love it every time he's on screen. I love the fact that he's now a part of Dany's conquest team. And he's got a nice beard these days as well.
I was going to say that. He looks great nowadays. They've really been styling him nice in the last season here.
Looks much better than he did back in season 1. Even with the dirty scar that he's got all across his face.
Well, he's got no nose in the books.
Oh, well, I've got that to come. Noseless.
Yeah, that's the one thing, particularly in Blackwater. I can't wait for you to read Blackwater because he really does have more of like he's a badass in battle in that scene. He talks about being just filled with bloodlust and rage and channeling that into fighting in the moment and stuff he heard in conversations with Jaime and never understood until that moment. And I feel like they did take away a little bit of his glory in Blackwater. He was involved with the scheme to do the wildfire and stuff, but you didn't get to see him do the physical combat.
Yeah.
Which he held at in that moment.
Yeah, that was clearly taken out a bit. I'd have liked to see that. I'd have liked to see some real Tyrion physical fighting action. But yeah, like you say, he is one of these characters that, well, to quote him himself, he knows things. And he does know things. And this is why he's lasted this long, doing the sort of pretty, important stuff that he's done in terms of killing people and being involved in other schemes. Like you said, the wildfire at Blackwater he was involved with. And yeah, he has so much effect on everything. And there's not a scene with Tyrion in that I don't love watching, because just what will he say next?
Yeah, he's the only character that people say, if he dies, I will quit watching this show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, will that happen? That's a question.
I think it might.
I think it'll be one of the sort of, the famous Game of Thrones second to last episode in a season.
Yeah. Well, I think my favorite thing about Tyrion is that when I'm reading the books, I get this sense that George R.R. Martin fancies himself to be like Tyrion. He's writing himself as Tyrion. I think it's really personal to him, that character. It feels very close. You can sense it when you read the pages.
Maybe he won't kill him then.
I think that's exactly why he will.
You think that's why he will kill him? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. That'll be a big one to stomach if Tyrion ends up dying. It'll be a huge one. Anyway, my number 2 was Brienne. We've already talked about that. So this is okay, because then we can finish on your number 1, and that's great, because my number 1 is obviously. Just if anyone... No, that's a stupid thing to say, because this is an audio-only podcast. I was waving my little finger around. And,
I could see him. That's he was doing it. I could see him.
Yes, see? It works, people. Come on. Littlefinger, Lord Peter Baelish, is the best character. Well, my favourite character on Game of Thrones. Maybe not the best, but my favourite character on Game of Thrones, because he's everything that's wonderful about Lord Varys, but he does it for himself. And he's so selfish, and he's wonderful, and he does everything just to further his own scheme for power. He is Tywin mixed with Varys. He's the best of the two.
Is that why he has 2 accents?
This is why 2... Call it 5, 6 accents. He has far more than 2 accents. Going back on my recent rewatch of season 1, of Game of Thrones, being, you know, the last episode that I'd watched before that was, of course, the last episode of season 6, where he and Sansa are, you know, he's after Sansa basically, and he's speaking in Aidan Gillen's more sort of Irish accent. Going back to when we first introduced to him in season 1, as, you know, in Littlefinger's brothel, and he's just like, whoa, why are you speaking like that? This is not how you speak. He's speaking in a completely different accent. It changes from English to like, and then it just slightly becomes more Irish, up to the point now where it's full Irish. And it's wonderful. I obviously, being from the UK, I notice little changes in accents a lot during Game of Thrones that maybe, you know, maybe North Americans don't. Like, I can really tell that Kit Harington and Alfie Allen are not from the North, but you probably wouldn't be able to tell that. But I can really tell because of the way they pronounce certain letters. Like, it's obvious for me. It's obvious to me that, you know, Sean Bean, for example. It's obvious to me that Sean Bean is from where he's from. You know, he's from Sheffield, I think, which is in Yorkshire. It's obvious that who else is actually northern? Who's northern on the show? It's obvious to me that Sam Tarly, for instance, is from the north, but Kit Harington, he tries his hardest. And I credit him entirely for doing that. But he needs to stop pronouncing his T's. He needs to stop pronouncing his T's, because we don't pronounce T's. It doesn't happen in the north of England. It just doesn't. So anyway, out on that weird accent tangent, Littlefinger is a devious, wonderful, tiny little goateed human being who is always just, like I said, he's the perfect mix of Tywin and Varys, because he's always 3 steps ahead of everything that's going on. You know, ultimately, I think to say he's a good person when he wants to be. He's a good person when it'll further his own desire. Like, he saves people. The Battle of the Bastards would have gone horrendously wrong if he hadn't have forged some sort of deal with Sansa.
Yeah.
Who else does he save? I'm sure he saves Sansa twice. Does he save Sansa twice? Who does he save? Who else does he save?
I don't know about saving. He's mostly saving his own ass. I think it's interesting you compare him to Varys and to Tywin, because Varys, like we talked about, seems to be doing things for the realm, and Tywin seemed very much to be doing things for furthering his family line and the name of his family, keeping it strong. And Littlefinger, like, I don't think he gives a shit about the realm unless it, like, directly affects him and his family. Like, he changed his sigil, like, he goes by his own name and stuff. Like, I think everything he does is in his complete own self-interest. So even if he's saving somebody, it's only because he wants them for something else.
I think Littlefinger likes bloodlines a lot, though. I think he's one of those that really appreciates bloodlines, which is why he's sort of almost creating his own. He wants to have some sort of big legacy, clearly. And like, the reason I compare him to Tywin and Varys as sort of a mix of them is because he's got the sort of I know more than you aspect of Varys, and he's got the sort of I'm just going to do things for myself about that Tywin has. Like, Tywin's obviously got his family as well, Littlefinger doesn't have a family, really. But I don't know. I'm always fascinated by him. I'm always so interested by what he's going to do, because he's one of these characters that will just almost come out of nowhere and just go, oh, of course Littlefinger knew what was going on. How did I not think of this before?
Yeah. And he seems to be the one who's going to probably reveal Jon's parentage, because he's hinted at it quite a few times.
Yes, I would expect so. Now, whether Jon's going to believe all that,
right? Would you?
I don't know. Is a pretty out there thing to believe, with the, just the proof that Littlefinger's telling you it's true.
I think there will be something in the crypts that will that Littlefinger's going to know how to find to prove his point.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. There probably will be, but how will Littlefinger know it's there?
Because he knows things too.
Because he's Littlefinger, and he'll know it's there, and that's what I love about him. He lies a lot as well. He's a notorious liar, and I appreciate a good liar.
Yeah, the show would not be the same without him, for sure. He I mean, he started the whole plot going because he was behind Jon Arryn's death.
Yeah. I mean, I do love it, actually, when so this is all coming from my recent rewatch of season 1, when it finally all kicks off in the throne room, and Ned basically gets arrested.
Yeah.
And it all looks like Littlefinger's just like, oh no, I've got nothing to do with this, and then he just comes with that little knife on Ned's throat, and he said, I told you not to trust me. And that is exactly why I love him, because he's so untrustworthy, but you have to trust him in order to know vital information about things. Yeah. And in order to save yourself, you have to trust him in certain circumstances. But then most of the time, he's just the snake in the corner, just waiting to pounce at any given opportunity. And I honestly, I can't say that I love him more. Oh, man. Anyway, finish us off. Your number 1.
Of course. I'm sure that anybody who knows me already knows the answer to this. You called Littlefinger a snake. I'm going to pick a snake as well, and go with the only member of the Martell family that they didn't ruin on the show, Oberyn, the Red Viper of Dorne, Martell. Oberyn's amazing. We talked about a lot of characters who you can't take your eyes off of them when they're on screen. Well, this man in season 4 managed to be in scenes with these people and steal the scenes from them. He's magnetic. I love his intro. We first meet him in a brothel when Tyrion was supposed to be meeting him, but he realizes he's already there, making himself at home. He has a beautiful paramour named Ilaria, who I very much liked when he was alive. They kind of derailed her character later after his tragic but amazing to watch death. Easily in the top deaths of the show, certainly one that everybody talks about. I don't even know where to start with him because I adore him so much. To have this bisexual character who is a man, who is not made just a character of like a different, not just a heterosexual, like he loves men too, and they don't really dwell on that or make it his whole thing. His whole thing is that he's badass and a master with poisons and with weapons. And filled with revenge. A lot of people make an Inigo Montoya reference to him because they do have kind of like a similar thing, but Oberyn just feels like his brother is doing nothing, who leads Dorne, and that his sister was murdered and her children, and he's not going to get over that even though many years have passed since that happened. Like, he doesn't care. He still feels that pain and wants to take it out on the people who caused it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's the one sort of good thing about Dawn.
Yeah. Well, the books, it's very different with Dorn. It's much better.
In the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, his death, I don't like all that thumbs in the eye is a horrible, horrible death, and it's done like there's a few notable times just on sort of whether it's in films or whether it's in whatever, and it's just always just like so. Like, I'm quite good when it comes to gore.
Yeah.
But there's something about thumbs in the eyes that just, and of course, when you thought he'd actually won the battle,
yeah,
against
again, it becomes his biggest weakness, you know.
Yeah, you thought, oh, thank God, right, he's won. We get more of Oberyn. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And he fought like the fight was so entertaining, and Pedro Pascal really did a wonderful job. He even seemed to set the accent for the rest of Dorne. Everyone else kind of seemed like they were doing an Oberyn Martell impression. Yeah. But he was just really good as Oberyn. He doesn't necessarily look like Oberyn was described in the book, but he was perfect for me. And really, it's more about his attitude and his persona that he has. I think he nailed that part of it. And he's so quotable. Like, he's given some great speeches as a bisexual person. What he said about, like, I see this and it pleases me. I see that and it pleases me. And everyone who is missing half the fun. Like, that sentiment resonates with me so strongly. And I loved the way he was characterized on the show. It was beautiful, man. Like, he was my hero. And season 4 will be forever my favorite season because of what Oberyn Martell brought to it.
Oh yeah, I mean season 4 is where it's at. Season 4 is the best season so far, at least. Anyway, and I do love Oberyn as well. He's another one that would be easily on the honorables.
Oh, I have some of those.
I mean, oh yeah. But yeah, like you said, obviously the bisexual aspect is very interesting because it's not sort of, like you said before, it's not dwelled upon, and it doesn't have to be, and that's a great thing.
It's how it should be with all characters.
Yeah, but yeah, he is an absolute badass, and he knows he's a badass, and that's another thing as well. And yes, it is ultimately why he ends up getting the whole thumbs in the eye, death, horribleness, because he's just a bit arrogant,
too comfortable,
just a bit, and but yeah, undeniably cool.
Yeah, I just loved watching him, like the way he would sit in chairs, and like during the trial when Shay was like, oh, he said to make love to him like it's his last night on Earth, and he's all like, and did you? He's the best, man. I just love him. He
does actually tend to sit on chairs in quite sort of like a I'm just gonna put my feet up, put my hand on my chin, and just stare at people. Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
I loved his outfits too.
Oh yeah, it's sort of like the yellowish, like they almost look. I tell you what, they look like.
Like a Jedi robe.
They look like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. That's what they look like.
It's like a sexy Game of Thrones Jedi.
A sexy Game of Thrones Jedi. Oberyn Martell.
Yeah, because he's got like the low cut, the like deep V.
Yeah, that is a quote that will go down in the history of the Enlightenment Hour. Oberyn Martell, the sexy Game of Thrones Jedi. Anyway, unless you have anything else to say about Oberyn Martell to profess your love, do you have any honorables even? Do you have any honorables?
Yes, I have 4, and I will try to be quick with it. My top honorable that was actually on my list at one point, and isn't at the final point because Davos booted him, but Ramsay Bolton is one of my favorites. I think that in a show filled with wonderful villains, he stands out to me as the worst, most vile, just aggressive physically and sexually. He's just awful. And to see Ewan Rayon, who I know from Misfits, and he plays a very like super shy, sheltered type character, to see him come out and play this character like Ramsay, who is so ballsy and so aggressive, it's really impressive. And I thought that I could have went for a little more Ramsay. I thought he was just getting good, and they took him out. I think he was better than Joffrey, because I feel like I could beat up Joffrey. I would be terrified if Ramsay came at me. And I think he's the best villain the show has had so far.
Tywin. Just saying. No.
I also have Yara Greyjoy.
Okay.
I like Yara a lot, particularly where they've been going with her recently on the show. When she hit on Daenerys, I was like, yes, it made me so happy. There's the ship I'm hoping for, because Dany didn't look like she was uninterested.
She didn't.
She looked like that piqued her interest a bit.
Yeah.
I like Yara a lot. Again, just like a strong female character who wants to take what she feels is rightfully hers, and I'm on her side. I support her trying to get the Iron Throne.
Yeah. I always found
I also have Daenerys.
I always found it funny with Yara that when Theon first goes back to Pike,
yeah,
and and he has no idea that it's his sister.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not going to go into sordid details, but yeah, that was funny.
But it shows you like to what lengths that she'll go to figure out what type of person he is, like she's very like meticulous and calculated with decisions like that.
Yeah.
I had Dany on my list as well, because I felt like I should say some stuff about her. She's great. A lot of people complain about her story being slow, but if you really look at all the things that Daenerys has gone through, she's by far done many more things than a lot of the other characters have. She's traveled across the whole map, basically.
Look at the map that you've got on the poster on your wall right now. She's pretty much done 3/4 of that. It's just not the part that we're always seeing.
Yeah, and now she's finally coming home, and it's very exciting. Like that shot they have towards I think it is maybe the last episode of Game of Thrones, where she's like on the ship and she has her whole new team with her assembled, and the dragons are flying, and like her theme is playing in the background. Like, if you don't get a tear in your eye like at that moment, I don't know like what you're doing, because it was so emotional. I guess the only other time I really got that emotional about her was the first time she hopped on Drogon's back and flew away. Like, it's amazing. And it's like everyone loves her dragons and stuff, but I think she's just as interesting as the dragons.
Oh yeah,
she's really strong to me, and I can't wait to see what they do with her next season.
Burn
I think she's a bad guy, by the way. She's going to be the ultimate villain of the show. I've been saying this for
burn everything down.
Oh yeah,
to the ground.
She's going full Targaryen. Have you noticed the black outfits?
Yes. What
she's
does
moving
black
there.
mean, guys? What does black mean? Black means she's going to burn everything to the ground.
And also, like, black and red are the Targaryen colors, so I think it's speaking to that she's, like, kind of embracing her full Targaryen-ness.
Love it.
And my last person who I had an honorable mention for is the Hound.
Yes.
He's awesome. I love the Hound. Protector of little girls and destroyer of men. He's just a powerhouse with, I know in there he has a heart of gold. I've seen it.
He does.
I loved him with Arya. He saved Sansa a couple times. He's great. I love the actor. Perfection.
Yeah.
Just great.
Yeah. I mean, if I was to mention two other honorables for me, Bronn would be in there, because I love the quick-witted sort of. He's not in it. He's a very, very secondary character. A very, very secondary character. He just sort of comes in to have banter with Tyrion and whoever.
He's a good singer.
He's a fantastic singer, actually. He's a fantastic singer.
And spot on from the book. That's another one of my favorite castings based on the book.
Very good. And of course, a man who would have been on my list if he hadn't have made me cry when he decided to betray Daenerys, Sir Jorah Mormont.
He started out betraying Daenerys. What do you mean?
I don't know what he was. All he wants is seriously. So why does he keep betraying everyone? Why does Jorah Mormont just and now he has grayscale and he's gonna die. And all I want is for him to be happy. God's sake, Jorah. Wonderful voice though. Great impression. Always trying to perfect a Jorah Mormont impression.
You do a Jorah Mormont impression?
I try to do a Jorah Mormont impression, but I'm not going to do it now. No. This is my show.
Do it.
You're not going to force me to do anything.
So when we are done recording, you'll do it for me and Tom private.
Okay. Yes. That is Enlightenment Hour bonus content that nobody will ever see. Yes, anyway, those are just a couple of other honourables for me. So yes, what a wonderful gathering of Game of Thrones characters that was. Guys, as always, if you did enjoy this wacky episode, please share it around, rate and review on iTunes, sub to the feed there, sub to the YouTube channel if you're on YouTube, and comment your favourite Game of Thrones characters or what you think of, various ones we talked about. Do you hate Tywin Lannister? Do you love Littlefinger for some reason like I do? Or you can also follow me on Twitter at the PurpleDon to see all the crazy stuff I have to say. And you always get to know when new stuff's coming out as well. There's been a good deal of stuff come out this past weekend. Well, mind you, the last weekend there was both an episode of Horror House and the Enlightenment Hour that went up that were a lot of fun. Kimber, plug away.
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter and or Instagram at kimberbatch_OSP. And you can catch me on Odd Shape Channel and the Tough Channel on our show Odd Shape Panel. It's a mouthful. We do that bi-weekly on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is very late for Morgan's time, but he does join us occasionally.
When I can, I try to as much as possible.
Yeah, but he does.
Very, very late.
And we miss him when he's not there. But we're also doing a Twin Peaks recap show weekly on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the people who are watching the new revival. And we have quite a few episodes more of that. So if you're into Twin Peaks, please join the conversation. And if not, check out Odd Shaped Panel sometime.
Absolutely. You can always find links to the Odd Shaped channel in every description of anything that is on, whether you're on the YouTube channel, you always find one in the description, or whether you're on the iTunes feed, you will always find one in the description there as well, because fully support the people that you love, and that's just wonderful.
Tom, real quick, is telling me that I forgot to say that we have a website now. You can check us out on oddshapedchannel.com.
Oddshapedchannel.com as well. Thanks, Tom, for that one. He's in the background somewhere. There he is. I can see him. You can't see him, but I can see him. Yes, guys. Thank you, as always, for listening. It's been a lot of fun. And until next time, goodbye.
Valor Magulis.